Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. We make atmospheric role playing games and stream them for you here on the internet, on Twitch. Yes, you probably knew that already. That's why you're here. It's Symbaroum night tonight, Wednesdays. Good lord. It rolls around fast in this apocalyptic year, 2021. But here we are. More Symbaroum, more Throne of Thorns, more Wrath of the Warden. As usual, one of the first things I'm going to do in our stream is introduce our stream manager, John. Get that face on here, John. Hi.
Don't like the way you said that.
Very few people like the way I say anything, so it's you've got good company. How are you tonight? Oh, that's terrible. I'm so sorry, John. How are you tonight?
I am fine. I'm fine.
Fine. Oh,
I was
such a
fine before that introduction.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, I didn't ascribe an adjective to the face, John. I just said the face.
That somehow makes it worse.
John is going to help us out tonight with cameras and art and chat, and maybe even a little more than that. We'll see as the stream rolls on. Mystery stuff. Right, let's get the promo out of the way. So there's a bunch of links down below. There's links to our YouTube and our Twitch. You're watching on one of those platforms. Please check out the other, especially if you're watching us here on Twitch. Do check out our YouTube because it's got VODs of all of our series over there. Thousands of hours of content. Take a look. It's probably got something you like. We also have links to our social media, to our Discord and our Patreon, all of which do the things those things do. In particular, on Patreon, I think this week we should have our Call of Cthulhu GM notes going up. So if Mondays with Johnny and the Cthulhu crew is something that's tickled your eldritch fancy, then maybe consider sponsoring us via Patreon. We also run 3 weekly streams. Well, we don't this week or next week, but on the regular we do. Mondays is usually been Call of Cthulhu with Johnny, but that's wrapped up now, at least for the time being. And in a couple of weeks, they will be starting a new series of Shadows of Esterin, which is a sort of dark fantasy horror thing. Sounds familiar. That's not plagiarism. On Tuesdays is Blades in the Dark, which is kind of wrapping up at the moment. Wednesdays is Symbaroum, and in the near future we'll be running something on Thursday nights as well, a World of Darkness anthology campaign thing. If you want to know more about Shadows of Esterin and the upcoming World of Darkness series, then we have a stream this Sunday evening. That is Sunday the 17th of October at our usual stream time of 8 o'clock BST. And if you tune in this Sunday, you will see a bunch of us hanging out in a kind of casual stream environment, talking about those 2 upcoming series, things that are coming up on the channel in general. So if you want more information about those things, if they sound like your cup of tea, then please do join us for that this Sunday. But we're not here for this Sunday or Shadows of Esterin or World of Darkness. We're here for Symbaroum, and let's start bringing on our players for a recap of last week's events. We are down a Mike tonight, folks, and we'll probably be down a Mike next week as well. But Mike and Anton will return at sooner than you know it. In no time at all. But in the meantime, let's bring on our first player tonight, Sam, to talk about how last week kicked off. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Hello. I should play. He plays Askar as well.
That's irrelevant.
Changeling, bow, whatever.
Yeah, doesn't matter. So we started off in Anadea's chamber, a place we'd been trying to get to for quite a while. But we finally were there, and they allowed us. The church kind of allowed us to look around and try to find whatever we could. I think the main things we found were a stack of papers and some coins, which I think we left, and then hidden somewhere, I think, by a kind of sink or something like that in the chamber. We found a kind of a secreted away little notebook, or a book, more properly. And from there, we kind of we went off. We went to a bar, a different bar, because the Witch and Familiar is somewhat compromised nowadays. And there I think we took a look through everything there.
You did. I would also mention you had the medallion with the diving bird of prey on it. Yeah.
Yes, we found a medallion with kind of a heraldic symbol on it. Not one that we recognized, but different to the other one we previously hadn't recognized. And yeah, we kind of examined them all. The stack of papers mostly seem to be kind of drawings and sketches, if I'm remembering right, with, I think there were 2 significant ones, but the only one I can remember was of an elf. Kind of a drawing.
Yeah, there was a sketch of an elf's face, and also some figures sat around like a well that was full of rippling water.
Yeah. And then Anton took a look at the book, which seemed to be full of kind of barbarian myths and legends, but with some kind of annotations. And he figured out that what the person annotating the book seemed to be most interested in were kind of legends about people breaking taboo and ending up kind of cursed or corrupted, seemingly without any magic being done on them specifically. And then we decided to figure out what this herald thing was. We were going to head to the Hall of Knights.
The Hall of Knights, absolutely, in kind of what passes for the town hall of Thistlehold. And to talk about that, let's bring on our next player. It's Chris, who plays Steo, curmudgeonly former town guard, current sellsword, and all round speary bloke.
Yeah. So we arrived at the Hall of Knights, which kind of resembled the set of a heraldry-themed sitcom, I think. We arrived in this nice chamber with a fire at one side and a kitchen adjoining at the other end, with the sound of banging and pots and pans going on. And at the fireside there was I think it's bookish on fare. Definitely a lady involved in kind of reading a book, but also quite clearly in charge, for want of a better word. And next to her, a gentleman bandaged and asleep on another sofa. We kind of spent a little while playing spot the shields with the heraldic devices on the roof, and we had some luck, didn't we? I can't recall.
You did. Yeah. So you found out that the device you found in Cargoy Salamas's house was, unsurprisingly, the heraldry of House Salamas, and you also found out that the heraldry on the medallion in Anadea's chamber was House Erebus.
So once we'd finally got a talk with the so we finally got introduced to the lady, and she pointed this out, and also pointed out that the person in the kitchen making the bangs was a young lord of House Erebus, and the gentleman asleep was a gentleman from House Dar. I can't remember what house she was from, but she helped us connect the dots. Now, she also pointed out the heraldry of House Dar by fluke and coincidence, and that made Steo realize that a sword he had collected on a previous adventure from the depths of Davokar actually was a sword of a Knight of Dar. So he thought now was a good enough time as any to cash that in for some sweet noble favors.
Absolutely.
And made a dash for it. In the meantime, our party went into the back room to have a discussion with the gentleman from House
Erebus.
Thank you. It was something like that. And he was a drunk, and he acknowledged the little trinket that had been given to had been discovered by us in the body of the young lady, and it turns out that she was the daughter of a dalliance he had back in the old world, and that was it. He was just a renounceable rascal who was happy to hear of her death.
Seemed broadly to come down in favor of it. Yeah, rather repugnant individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, the investigating party did end up with some nice booze, which I missed out on. But I did arrive back as they were leaving and presented the sword of the House of Dar to a gentleman by the name of Aaron Dar, who was a cameo from our other Symbaroum series.
Absolutely, from Fetters of Stone. Go check that out, folks. It's complete on our YouTube.
So I bought some noble favors for the return of the sword, and the first one was the kind of buy, for want of a better word, a little bit of counseling time just to talk through the situation we'd gotten ourselves into and see what could be done about Salamis and about Cargoy Salamis and Beady Fighty Dude.
Yeah, specifically Serix Atio, because
Serix
Aaron Dar is his ward in Mother Mahira's agency, so you figured maybe he can talk him down from his current position of go near this again and I'll hack you in two.
Yeah. So that was more or less the run of it. Aaron acknowledged that he owed quite the debt for the return of the sword, given that he is in a position of being somewhat of a scion for a house that seems to have disappeared under perchance mysterious circumstances over the last decade or so.
But less mysterious now. That he knows what happened to his cousin in the depths of Davakar. That about sums up the Hall of Knights. Let's bring on our final player tonight, Stephen, who plays Alindra, former Templar novice turned sellsword. Stephen, let us know how we wrapped up last week.
Hi, yeah. So we were kind of working our way down our to-do list of avenues of investigation, and one of the ones that we hadn't done but were able to do was to go and visit the archives of the Ordo Magica. They had said that we were welcome in there and that they would help us answer if we had specific questions. We had some questions about the note that had been sent by Tierra Tiana to Anadea, who was our contact and the kind of focal point of this entire investigation in a way. We had a couple of questions. One was about the name Tierra Tiana itself. The man that we met there, the librarian, for want of a better word, he was a kind of he was another drunk in a smoking jacket.
Yeah, there were a lot of tipsy people last week.
Yeah. So he said that we probably wouldn't find anything in the archives about that specific individual, but he was able to confirm that it is the name of an individual, an elf, but a kind of a literal translation of the name is Rays of the Sun. Also in the note, it had instructed Anadea to meet in a place where no tear falls in vain. This was translated by our contact in the archives as meaning the halls of 1,000 tears, which is apparently a location, a meeting place that can move. I think within Davakar.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that it's rumored almost to be maybe the only permanent settlement of the elves in Davakar, but permanent may mean a very different thing to them than it does to Hamlins.
not necessarily geographically permanent. So, and then the last thing that I remember is having kind of posed these questions to him, we decided that we were going to just kind of come clean and say like, hey, there was this woman, Anadea, we think she may be connected to elves, we think she maybe knows some things about the sinkhole and about the corruption. We found this note amongst her belongings, and the archivist seemed very interested, more than a little concerned about these things, speculated that perhaps he needed to kind of run this up the chain at the Ordo Magica and speak to his superiors about it. And we utterly failed to dissuade him from that course of action. So I think that's what's going to happen.
It's cat slightly out of the bag now, but at least as far as the Order Magica is concerned. Yeah, his name is Master Gonkai, incidentally.
Master
He's like
Gonkai, yes.
the final remaining master of the Order Magica in Thistlehold that you haven't met at that point.
I did write that down, but the section of my notes about the Order Magica is in a different place to where I was looking just then.
That's fair. So, that's where we wrapped up last week, and I think it's fair to say, because we had, a bit of chat last week about the options you have remaining and the leads you have, and like I think we safely built the picture that there is a lot of waiting imminent. You're waiting for the Order Magica to come back to you about the Sinkhole expedition. You're waiting for the Queen's Legate to come back to you with an appointment, and also I think you're feeling the heat rising a little bit in Thistlehold around Serexatio and the like. So kind of we've done a bit of battering stuff around off screen, especially with Mike not being able to make the next couple of weeks. So why don't we have a scene? And I think it's safe to say that your current drinking hole of favor is Brew by the East Gate. Why don't we start with a scene there where we talk about where we're going to take this, what is going to ensue in the next couple of days for your little group.
Okay. Shall we go down the list of leads again? So we still owe the Lightbringer to follow up on our word to say that we're supposed to protect Father Salvolo, which I think means finding and confronting Salamos without being killed by Serexatio on the way. I'm not sure what we can do there, or whether we should just wait for Aaron Dar.
It can't hurt to wait for Aaron. Even just to give Serex a bit of time might help him calm down.
Yeah, maybe he'll sober up.
Or sober down and forget that anything happened.
We're waiting to hear about the Sinkhole. We're waiting to hear about the Queen's Legate.
They said the Sinkhole was a few days away, didn't they?
Yeah, so we've got probably a few days.
Great. I want to go and sleep for 72 hours.
I mean, there's one other thing on the list, which is that we have a lead in Glimmervann. Arkle, the priest that Anadea was arguing with.
It's a day's ride out. It's a day's ride back.
Okay. I mean, I haven't been there. I don't know what the place is like, but I don't know. Well, what else we're going to do to kill the time other than sleep?
Oh, please.
I mean, there's things we could do, but they all seem like longer shots than this.
Well, we can't do much about Father Salvola because I suspect him and his team have already gone to ground.
You certainly haven't heard anything about them, and the mission house is just a smoking ruin now.
Yeah, so we can't protect him if we can find him, and if we can't find him, we probably don't need to protect him.
No, I agree with you, Elindra. The charge to protect him is now a charge to figure out how to convince a load of joyriding nobles that maybe this particular crusade is not the one for them, which is neither fun nor worth the entry fee to another ongoing mystery.
Yeah, I mean, we've annoyed Serexatio. We've broken into what we suspect is still Cargo Salamis' house and killed a number of his minions and been through his stuff. Like at this point, I don't know how we go and find him and have a nice civil chat.
I guess it's a long road west then. East, but sure.
Yeah.
We should work that out before we leave.
Yeah,
No, I know.
It is west. It is west.
No, it's east. Don't even get the map up.
No, Glimmervann's definitely to the west. Blackmore is to the east, which is the refugee camp. I think, John, do we still have a little map of sort of the area around Thistlehold?
I had actually thought it was more south than anyone.
It's kind of southwest, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting it mixed up with Castor. Yeah, carry on.
Oh yeah. Castor is to the east. Well, we'll see if John can find a thing. Yeah, there might not be one with Glimmervann on. I definitely think there's like a map somewhere that has. It doesn't have Glimmervann on, but it has like an arrow in the direction and says Glimmervann and various things. But it's fine. It's fine. It is to the sort of west-ish. So that entails leaving from the west gate. Are there any kind of preparations you want to make before you go? And I guess as part of that as well, are we hiring some horses? Because you don't own any horses, as far as I know. You can walk it. You can easily walk it as well. But
is it a day on a horse or a day?
That's actually a really good question. And you know what? I think, thinking back to our previous things, I think it's a day's walk.
Yeah, didn't Anton like book it to get back?
Because I'm thinking about the Jackad's Heart quest and how the daughter made it back on a horse quicker than a day.
Yeah.
So I think it's a day's walk and like maybe like a 12-hour ride, a long ride that's still like a kind of sort of a day's worth of travel, but much less, onerous. Like you'd get there in the afternoon or something, I think.
How much the horse? We have a lot of money now. How much does a horse cost to buy?
That's a good question, and I'm sure it will be in the equipment section.
That's an ongoing investment, Ascarai. Do you have stables? Do you have like a page to take care of them?
Yeah, but if you just hire a horse.
Yeah, hiring the horses. Are you keeping a horse on retainer?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I'm sure we could leave it at a stable for some fee. It feels like we're gonna potentially be doing some traveling in the future.
Yeah. Well, it says here that buying a riding horse is 5 thaler. So I'd imagine that like hiring it is, for a couple of days is not too harsh on the purse. So it's up to you guys really what you want to do.
I think I'm not cut out for owning an entire horse. I'm going to be honest with you.
But do you want to just hire? Being as it's buying a horse is 5 thaler, I'd say if you want to buy horses, rent horses for the group, let's call that 1 thaler each for a couple of days.
I think I'll just I'll propose that we just rent and for Ghent.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
Is anyone going to cover Elindra? Because I want to imagine that Elindra probably doesn't have a thaler.
5 thaler is
okay.
what I started the campaign with, so I could buy a horse and nothing else. I think I probably have a little less than that because there's been food and drink and lodgings and stuff.
Sure,
so.
yeah. Okay. Well, let's say it's 1 thaler each to hire, a horse for a few days.
I don't think I'll be making any specific preparations other than the old adventurer's bag.
Yeah, it's not like you're about to take a trip into Davokar or anything. And that's not me being weirdly sarcastic and passive-aggressive. You are. Yeah.
Or foreshadowing, perhaps. But also, my adventuring bag is pretty much what's left of my trip to Davokar. I'm actually going to wipe out like some of these weeks of travel supplies. They're probably gone off by now.
Yeah. No problem.
I'll just pick up a few more arrows, but that's all.
Sure.
Yeah. Some like food and drink for the road.
Yeah, just some travel stuff. We don't need to like cover that in our costs or anything, but yeah, just some like little travel supplies. No problem. Well then, do you think it's safe to say that you'd start out the next morning? Because I think the previous day had worn on a little bit.
We were late afternoon, as I recall, so it's probably going
Sure.
to take the rest of the day off and get some rest. And
I'd probably propose trying to make a start before dawn.
Sure, just kind of like early doors at the west gate.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can certainly recover a point of toughness then for resting overnight if anyone has any toughness outstanding. And then the next morning, kind of early on as dawn is tinging the sky, you can gather at the western gates and set off. There are, stables. I think we've had you hire horses before, and like there's regular kind of stables operated by the same company throughout all these major roads on the edge of Davokar, and you can hire some fairly docile horses and start making your way west. As you travel, the dark shadow of Davokar is always to the north, lurking there. The occasional kind of animal noise echoing out from it, and it just rambling off as far to the north as you can see. To the south, a very different story. There's a lot of fallow fields near Thistlehold, but they give way as you travel to farmhouses, very small kind of little hamlet settlements that are springing up, and the occasional patch of woodland which looks very different from Davokar on the other side of the road. As the light starts to kind of turn the sky from a general sort of the twilight of dawn into another overcast, slightly rainy day, you hear a horse approaching on the road behind you.
One question. What has happened with Anton in this scenario?
Anton is still with you for now.
Okay.
I'm going to kill him off in about an hour.
All right, nice.
Great. Well, I'll cast the eye back and see what's approaching.
Yeah.
Well, approaching behind you is our fourth player for a while.
Who could it
Don't
be?
know if he wants to jump on through. There we go. There we go.
It's changing my
Aaron
name
Dar. Aaron Dar is riding up behind you on a horse. It's probably still a bit bandaged and wincing with every kind of jolt of the horse. Feel free to whack his art up as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's have a look at good old Aaron.
Did we do color for Aaron?
Yeah, we've got Fetters of Stone art. So
Oh, nice.
Slightly older school.
good stuff. That is Aaron Dar.
Wash and buckle.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm assuming we're gonna pause our horses and wait for him to catch you.
Yeah, I imagine so. I'm a little bit shocked. So I suppose I'll call out to him once he gets in range. What's going on here? Are you well enough to be riding, my lord?
I'm fine. The guards said you'd left. I thought I could catch up with you with a bit of a gallop. Maybe going to regret it later.
Do you
I
have
should
some?
know to keep their mouths shut about that kind of stuff.
You should know that's not what guards do. With
Yeah,
respect.
it's different when I'm the subject of the gossip. So, have you? I mean, we're only going to Glimmervann to check on some business.
Well, I spoke to Serex, and he seemed well, and like he needed some time to think about it. So I thought that perhaps giving him some space would be, yes.
So we're all of us fleeing from Thistlehold then. Okay.
Fleeing is a strong term, maybe.
Perhaps we could just say that we've chosen a good time to visit Glimmervann.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
It is.
Well, we with no reason to gallop now, so rest yourself, and we will make a more leisurely pace to the town.
Very good.
And with obviously Aaron maybe slightly slowing the pace down and urging his horse on slightly slower than everyone else, still wincing at those bandages around his torso. You make a little slower going as the morning wears on, and as you find yourself approaching sort of just past midday, the sun is presumably up there somewhere behind banks and banks of white and grey cloud, and you find yourself kind of shaking your head to dislodge dampness and the rain from your hair, and kind of like reseating yourself frequently on the horses. Generally not a pleasant day to be traveling. And an oasis presents itself, because as our regular Symbaroum players know, halfway to Glimmervann is the Inn of Jackad's Heart. stood on the north side of the road, surrounded by a palisade of recently recut and freshened timbers, and inside a multi-story inn. We seem to have a couple of people walking in and out of it, a large vegetable garden which seems to be in very good shape, and also within the bounds of the palisade is another small odd structure. Elindra and Aaron, you're maybe not overly familiar. Having said that, Aaron, did you pop into Jackad's Heart in Fetters of Stone? Did I insert that little Easter egg in there? I can't remember.
I don't think we did. No,
I might have mentioned it, but maybe we didn't visit it. Either way, it's what appears to be maybe a small shrine of some kind. And for the purposes of Steo and Ascarai, the last time you were here, I think I said that the vines which were growing over it looked rather lackluster and unfortunate, as though whatever power burns within it has started to run dry. The exact opposite experience this time. The shrine is covered head to toe with flowering vines and various plants growing all over it, even some vegetables gathered around the bottom of it. Tending that shrine, as always, as some of you are familiar with, is a very tall, rangy ogre, dressed in a rather simple smock and a big floppy gardener's hat, who looks delighted as he kind of is tending at the various plants that are growing through this small stone shrine that's kind of like, it's like a little kind of like a little gazebo, I guess, because you can kind of walk into it, but there's nothing much in there. Anton immediately dismounts his horse and goes over to the shrine with great interest. For the purposes of just refreshing it, for any of the viewers or the players who've experienced this before, Jackad's Heart is built by a couple of decades old shrine that used to produce miraculous waters that had great healing qualities, but that had kind of declined over the 10 years or so following its discovery, and it has lain kind of like empty for a while, but has recently been resettled, and apparently at least there's something going on with the shrine now. Steo and Ascarai are also familiar with the family who live here.
I think we're pulling in for lunch anyway. I'll see about tying the horses up over by the kind of lean-to or little stable thing.
The one of the children of the couple who run this, the oldest girl, Melga, the one who went for help during that story, greets you very happily and makes sure that the horses are all being seen to. Thanks you again for your help that long time ago now, probably, I want to even say maybe a year ago or so now in the course of our story. And obviously kind of gestures to Jackad's Heart itself, the inn, and says, "Oh, there's a broth. There's a broth stewing. I'm sure you'll be welcome."
There's always a broth. And kind of cast Ascarai a little worried glance, given we know the history of what those broths are made in.
Well, it's never had a reason to complain before.
Yeah. Stop for lunch. I can thoroughly recommend just about anything cooked in here.
Agreed. The only danger is it's going to be hard to leave again.
You make that sound about 4 times more sinister than you needed to, but that's fine.
Is there something I need to know about this place?
Oh, lots. That's a good story for the second leg of our journey.
For after we've managed to leave?
Yeah, it's fine.
Or we could have a little scene in the inn where you're giving a little potted history of that story to Elindra, just for context. That might be nice.
We'll go in and pull up a pint and a soup and go. Wait until everyone's had a little bit of the soup, and then go. Basically there was baleful elf poison brewed in the pots that now makes this soup. It's probably Symbaroum in origin.
That's why it tastes so good.
Okay. But it's safe, right? Like baleful is not a word that I normally associated with my soup.
Well, we have some reason to think that the cooking pot is in some way magical, but perhaps we've eaten here since, and it's I think it's just made the food better, to be honest with you.
The food is very good.
Very
And I don't mean that in a kind of you never want to leave kind of. It's just very, very good food. You were given a very warm welcome by Calder and Tandrag, who run the place, who obviously offer you free lodging, free food, and the like.
Well, I suppose the other story is that this is the place where we met Shuglud and the Varagoldra.
Who?
The place was under siege by a drunkard witch, some Ambrian who'd fallen under the curse of corruption, and this tribe of goblins who'd fallen under their sway as well. And Shuglud's managed to break out of the stupor that his other colleagues had been rendered under and came to us and asked for help, and we did our best, but body count was very high that night.
There are only... I'm going to double check this with Matt before Aaron says it. 5 of them left?
Yes, I think there were 5 of them left at the beginning of Fetus of Stone.
There are only 5 of them left. How many were there originally?
20? 30?
Yeah, about 20
Forest.
or 30 of them, yeah.
Oh, you could hear them in the forest.
So a bloodbath then.
It was awful. You've seen you've seen what we have to do from time to time. Like that.
You take me to the nicest places.
Look, now it's just a story. We can all drink a health to the Varagoldra. Raise a toast. Although that's probably in bad taste, drinking a health to a dead tribe.
To the Varagoldry.
Sure. So what's that shrine outside? Is that
That's old. That's also Symbaric.
Pre-Ambrian?
As far as we understand it, yeah.
It's not often it's not often this side of Castor that you see shrines to anybody other than Prios.
Yeah.
I think it is now a shrine to Prios.
Yeah.
They all are.
The thing is, though, like, I have reason. So when we were talking in the forest before, I think Prios was around as a deity in the time of the Symbaric civilization. I think.
Certainly, the Sun Temple would say that. I'm not sure you know specifically. I think various old Symbaric things have been found with sun symbols on them and things like that. So people have interpreted it in that way, certainly.
And definitely, I would have remembered the time near the Dying Dreams with the priest who was writing kind of spider sun symbols everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think, did Zenatha mention to me that he was originally called the Smith and all that sort of stuff?
Maybe, yeah.
I can't recall. Anyway, I will probably talk to that for a while, but just eat my lunch.
And while you are eating your lunch, Anton comes in. He seems quite excited, but also a little bit nervous. And he says to you as you kind of are finishing up your food that he blurts something about the shrine and how that's exciting, but then also mentions that he and Mangold were kind of taking some plant waste out to the outside to kind of dump it in a kind of trench at the side of the road, and then essentially he saw what he thought were some people snooping around the side of the palisade.
People, yeah?
That's what he says. I'm not going to do a Mike impression.
Definitely full-size people and not goblins.
He says he didn't get a good enough look at them to see.
Do you want to go for a walk, Ascarai?
Yeah.
Well, do we want to how about, because I think we have someone who needs a quick break. So why don't we have Steo stay inside, kind of like just keeping guard at the inn along with Anton, and send the other three out to investigate. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
That's good.
Cool.
Okay. So we're going to do a walk around the perimeter.
Yeah, maybe look for people, obviously, but tracks of people so we can see them.
Sure. So you emerge out. I take it there's no attempt to kind of like get out of the palisade sneakily. You're just kind of like going to walk out the front gate and take a look around, or
As far as Aaron is concerned, yes.
Can we? What's the palisade like? Like, can you see through it from the inside, or is it?
no? It's kind of. You can kind of peek through little gaps, but it's fairly sturdy and well made, and it's the height of maybe about 7 feet high, something like that. So,
okay. So if we're looking for the people sneaking around, we go out ourselves and do a lap then.
Yeah, I mean, there's a platform just over that front gate with like a bell on it as an alarm. You could maybe get a look from up there, but there's a lot of foliage near the palisade as well. So if someone's hiding, it might not be.
Yeah,
visible.
I think on the way through the gate, I might go up to the platform and just have a look around.
Sure, absolutely. Why don't you give me a vigilant roll, and let's say at a -3.
Oof. Let's have a look. Well, that's a success. Neither a 7 got a 3.
Okay. You don't notice anyone in the immediate environs of the palisade, but you can see some way down the road from where you've come. There are a couple of individuals sat on very scrawny looking ponies who seem to be kind of like looking down the road. You can't tell if they're just looking down the road or looking down the road kind of towards where Jackad's heart is.
Okay. Okay. I'll climb down from the platform and relay this to the others. There's a couple of people out there on the road. They might be scoping the place out. They may have just stopped to rest. We can go and talk to them. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we're doing here, really. Like, we don't appear to be under attack.
No, but there's no real reason for anyone to be looking around the palisade, as far as I can think of.
No, I mean, I would imagine you're either going to ride past on the road or you're going to come in.
Yeah.
So it is strange.
I don't know. Do we want to talk to these people first, or look around the palisade?
How close are these people, Matt? Are they?
I'd say they're about maybe 200 meters up the road to the east.
Okay.
So a fair distance. It's far enough that you can't really see them that well.
Yeah. Why don't we take a look around the palisade, but sort of in that direction?
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll kind of head up towards them, see what's happening at the palisade. But actually, if we're kind of getting close to them as well, we maybe get to see a little better like what they're doing, whether they're kind of scoping the place out or just having a rest or whatever.
And see if they react to us walking in their direction.
Yeah.
Sure. So you emerge from those front gates, and immediately kind of to your left and to the east, there is, like I say, quite a lot of foliage, quite a lot of trees. It'd be easy for someone to hide in all that, and it is indeed easy if you want to hide in that and move a bit closer to them. Can everyone... well, actually, the way it works technically in Symbaroum is that the person with the lowest discreet needs to give me a discreet roll. So what are our discreets?
9.
And also 9.
Mine's 13, I think.
Okay, well, being as that's joint, I'll just roll to see who makes the roll. No, you know what? We can have Aaron make it. He's a bit creakier and he's new, so we'll induct John with this roll, and you can, it's pretty good cover, so you can take a +3 to it.
Okay, so I'm aiming for 12,
Mm-hmm.
and I roll a 16.
Sure. You find yourself, the three of you, kind of moving forwards through the foliage and kind of past quite tall tree trunks, kind of not exactly the same as you'd get in Davakar, but kind of reminiscent. You know, they remind you how close you are to the bounds of the forest. And as you do so, you know, partway along, maybe after you've gone about 50 meters or so, you hear kind of Aaron. Does Aaron swear? Is he too genteel to swear?
He doesn't swear, but he may be like whatever the Symbaroum version of "gosh darn it"
Sure.
would be.
You
Definitely wouldn't blaspheme.
You hear some mumbled words of distress and the cracking of a large branch, and ahead of you, somewhere in the rest of the foliage, you hear like a kind of rustled start of noise, and a number of animals or people scampering through the foliage ahead of you out. It feels like they are moving towards the east. You know what? I'm happy for anyone who isn't Aaron to give me a vigilant roll at -4 to see if they can get a closer look at whatever just bolted.
Okay.
I failed.
I need an 11. I got a 3.
There we go. You see these individuals, Askarai. What you see, you can't count them. You'd say maybe 3 or 4. At least one of them was either a goblin or a human child. And another one was, well, I'd give you an option, but it's an ogre. Interestingly, they are all dressed in sort of yellowish, brownish rags that are wrapped kind of around their bodies in various sashes, and like over the top of like ragged looking tunics and trousers. One of them you get a fairly good look at, which you'd say was probably a goblin, and they whip their head round to look back at you, and you can see that this yellowish brown clothing is interrupted only by kind of the wraps are around their heads as well, and across where like there's a kind of gap for their eyes to peer through, some kind of red orb or circle or mark has been daubed like around that front, in a very haphazard fashion. It looks like maybe just some dye has been dipped in or something like that. The overall impression you get is this, you know, obviously this person is trying to conceal themselves with this outfit, but it is not. It is A, distinctive, and B, very ramshackle. But you can hear these individuals like scattering away towards the east.
Okay, I'll point out there's a goblin, some ogres. I don't know what they're doing.
They sound like they're moving towards the road. I will say that.
I will try and go after them and, you know, follow them.
Sure. How about the other two?
Is it easier from where we are to try to follow them kind of directly through these woods, or would it make more sense to head sort of directly for the road and try and get a line of sight up the road?
The latter, absolutely the latter.
I will head to the road.
Likewise.
Okay. Likewise. Okay, let's give ourselves, I'd like 2 rolls, and first off I'd like a quick roll for everyone. I'll give you well, no, because you're moving at the same speed as the other individuals in the foliage, so I won't remove that. I'll give Aaron a -1 though, because I feel like you're still kind of tangled up in some bracken or something.
I passed my quick roll.
Awesome. And everyone else do.
I just failed my quick roll.
Sure. Aaron and Askarai, you find yourself kind of scrambling amongst all the underbrush as you try and make your way out to the road. But Elindra, maybe you were just faster, or maybe you can just kind of, the fact that you're bigger and bulkier and have a big sword means that you can kind of batter your way through the branches and bushes a bit easier. But you find yourself emerging onto the road in the sort of fairly dim afternoon light. Ahead of you to the east, you can see a number of individuals. You see those two kind of underfed, fatigued-looking ponies carrying two individuals. One looks like maybe they're also a goblin. Another one is kind of human-sized. You see a number of about 3 goblins and the ogre kind of bursting their way out from the woods. The goblins scrambling up the ponies to kind of like ride alongside the human and the other. And as you kind of move out, within I'd say about 5 seconds of you emerging out into the road, they turn the mounts around and start galloping as fast as they can back towards the east, kind of occasionally looking over their shoulder towards you. The ogre is alongside them, but is just running with those incredibly long legs. They are all dressed in that self-same fashion, with the yellowish-brown rags around them and the kind of red circle or orb kind of daubed on the front of what, not a mask, but you know what I mean, like the bandage wraps around the heads. You can try and catch them if you want, but you're going to have a pretty hard time on foot.
I don't think I can outrun that ogre, and it's going to take a while to go back and get the horse.
It will, yeah.
I just kind of wondered, because we travelled down that road, is there anything on this road to the east except Thistlehold? Or
this road just goes straight to Thistlehold. I would imagine there are probably roads branching off it that lead kind of around the south of Thistlehold, so you don't have to go through the city. And they would lead onto the roads that go off to other places like, is it called Temple Wall, the center of the Church of Prios, and then obviously Blackmoor to the east and various other places. But the next big thing, or thing really of any kind on the road, is Thistlehold, yeah.
Fair enough. So they're either going to wind up there, or they could, I guess, potentially just peel off to the north.
Yeah. Or assuming they stay on the road, they could always go to Davakar or off south, wherever.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I don't think I'm going to try and catch them, and I don't see any way of sending any message up the road faster than them. So I'll kind of just wait for the others.
Sure, they emerge from the foliage in due course.
They rode off back to the east very quickly.
So they were with the people on the horses. Yeah,
The goblins jumped on the horses. They were together. So the horses were the getaway. Either we've interrupted them doing something in the woods, or I guess maybe they finished doing what they were doing in the woods. Like, do we want to go back and look at where they came from?
Yes, but I think we should also check the palisade. Maybe they've done something to it, or
I want to look at the woods where we first heard them. I want to look at the palisade around that area.
Very strange.
Yeah, they were strange looking as well.
I saw their outfits, but I've never seen anything like that, really. Nothing I recognize, just kind of yellow wraps around their whole body.
Yeah. A cult? A raggedy circus?
Yeah.
So, did we say we want to kind of check around the palisade and kind of in the area where they were lurking to see if there's any kind of telltale signs of anything? Are we going to kind of split that up, or are you going to keep yourselves together?
We kind of have to go through where we found them to get back to the. We could go to the. Yeah. So I guess we may as well just all go together. We might.
Yeah. Maybe sort of spread out so that we kind of maintain eyesight, but try and do a bit of a sweep.
Yeah. All right. So if you're going to search the kind of woods around, why don't we have a vigilant roll for everyone? A vigilant at -4, I think. It's not like the most thick of woodland and underbrush, but it's pretty difficult to find anything in.
Okay. A 1.
Yeah.
Nice. I didn't make it.
I needed a 1 and didn't get it.
Well, you'd be delighted to know, with your 1 against all odds, that all you find is a yellowish brown length of poor poorly made linen cloth hanging off a branch. It hasn't been tied on it or anything. It's just presumably was pulled off in the when they were fleeing. Yeah, but otherwise you don't find anything.
I will take that piece of cloth, fold it up, and put it away somewhere.
Sure. And then when we hit the palisade, if we're doing the same thing, I'll give it another minus, but it's much less. The minus is basically just for the size of it. Let's have a vigilant roll at let's say -2 from everyone. How about that?
Okay.
I actually succeeded with a 3, which is what I needed.
Hurrah!
I needed an 8, and I got an 8. That's a pass under the
Yeah.
errated rules, right?
Yeah, well, you all managed to do a kind of a walk around of the palisade. You do it slowly and carefully, and you have like a look up and down it. Maybe even do the interior as well, walking around while Mangold peers at you curiously as he's tending a sunflower draping from the top of the shrine. The palisade looks fully intact. No suspicious, nothing, no markings, no nothing. Either if they intended to tamper with it, they didn't succeed, or maybe they came nowhere near it, or for whatever reason, it is fine.
Were there any signs of ogre's pretty big. Were there any signs of ogre tracks at the palisade?
No.
Okay.
And you didn't really manage to find anything in the woods in terms of track. Just too much underfoot, too much crap. But then near the palisade, it's a bit clearer. But no, you didn't find any tracks or anything like that around the palisade.
Okay.
I think we should still inform the landlords.
Yeah. Let's head inside and let them know.
Well, as those of you who've been here before know, Cauldra is a kind of short, former Ambrian military no-nonsense lady, and she kind of nods grimly and says, "Well, we've learned our lesson from last year. Even the children go around armed now." And as she says that, kind of the youngest of them, who's about 5, just kind of happily gesticulates a large, rather solid-looking club in the background. As he sat kind of on a little ledge behind the bar. Let's bring on Steo. Steo's back in the mix now, right? So, hey, Chris. Yes. But they thank you for kind of driving them off, whoever they were.
Seemed like only a small party. I'm sure there'll be no match for you. They do try to cause any trouble.
Have you seen anything like them before? These yellow and brown rags?
No, nothing, but there's all sorts traveling this road.
I don't know if they came from further on down the road. I suspect they came from the north.
They could well have done. People come from the forest, and they're not always the most savory.
And Tom, you've been studying the northerner clans. Do those colors match anything you know of?
Antom indicates he has... no, essentially he says that what you're describing doesn't describe anything he knows of any of kind of the barbarians of the forest or goblin tribes of the forest or anything like that. But he's not.
Casting my mind back to the scrawled documents we got. I don't recall at the time, but let me know if I did see anything similar in the sketches.
I will do, but absolutely not. The individuals in those sketches definitely, one was of an elf, and the others look like individuals that could be elves or maybe humans and changelings. Definitely not goblins or ogres in their build. So,
well, I suppose if they're going west, they're Thistlehold's problem now.
East, but yes.
East, yeah. Keep getting those mixed up. It's fine.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing.
I suppose we'd better head on. We got to get to Glimmervann eventually.
Yep. Yeah, we have places to beat.
Although, speaking of places to be, Anton, for his part, expresses that he is very interested in the resurgent life that has sprung up around this shrine of Prios. Last time you were here, it turned out that it was, at least to some degree, still producing miracles in that it had a healthy supply of water of the dusk there, the healing liquid that Anton tends to feed people, still comes from there, right? Like he's still tapping that bottle, and if this source of miraculous water has sprung to life again, clearly Anton should investigate it, and has an interest in doing so, and suggests that you folks can head on to Glimmervann without him. How convenient.
Suppose we'll ride out. Give some words of caution to the friendly military murder lady.
And, Anton probably also wants to make sure they're all right. And at the very least, they've also got Mangold here, who, as we have experienced, is a wonderful, gentle, gardening friend who can turn to extreme limb-rending violence if his plants are threatened in any way. So, yeah. Okay, so it seems to me like maybe kind of mid-afternoon now. You'll be striking out west again from Jackad's Heart and traveling on to Glimmervann. The road is much as it was before. You don't notice kind of anyone behind you or around you. No kind of like yellow rag-clad suspects in the nearby environs. The further you move away, the more you see more kind of like little, very small hamlet settlements dotted around, kind of a little fishing village here, a farmhouse there. And as the road kind of slightly curves even further away from Davokar, at times it's obscured over slightly rolling hills. You see more kind of crop fields around you and just more managed land. And you recognize on your way a watermill just to the south that, probably all of you or most of you in some capacity have been near Glimmervann before if you've spent time in Thistlehold. And that tells you are nearly there. And before long, as the afternoon starts drawing in, you arrive at Glimmervann. It has a small walled centre to it that houses a roadside tavern, a trading post, and a couple of handicraft stores. It is a quiet little place, albeit one where a lot of trading caravans move through. But today, not so much. And you arrive, a few curious individuals looking at you, and what seems to be a fairly pleasant evening starting to kick off at the Glimmervann Inn, the imaginatively named tavern here in Glimmervann. Oh, and just, let's say, up on a hill to the north, because continuity matters, is the charcoal covered remnants of a large barn-like structure that burned to the ground sometime over the last year or so.
We do know. Do we know that is where?
Oh yeah, Yeah, Anton filled you in on that entire escapade. Yes.
Okay, I will probably mention it. That must be where our friend Malmello met his unfortunate end.
Just try not to do business with black cloaks, I think, is the moral of that story.
Yeah. Or even worse, someone pretending to be a black cloak.
I think that makes it marginally better. I don't know.
This sounds like another story that you should tell me or not tell me at some point, but I already appreciate the moral of the story.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a room, shall we?
You head on into the Glimmervann Inn. It is a fairly large establishment because it's the only one of this very small town, and obviously it's as much a kind of a waypost for travelers as much as it is a tavern for the people of the town. Behind the counter is a youngish woman with long blonde braids who is serving people. They all look like regulars. There's a number of people here who look very like they're farmers or local craftspeople and laborers who look at you slightly askance as you come in, but only to kind of like clock you, really. No, clearly they're used to strangers coming in and out of the place. It is like a large open area. But there's also a couple of tables free, including one rather near a pleasant roaring fire. Yeah. Oh, and there is a wandering minstrel playing, not that one.
Oh, thank God.
Somewhere near the fire, who's just kind of gently strumming on. Chris, give us an old stringed instrument we haven't had before.
An old stringed instrument that we haven't had before. How about a zither?
A zither. There is someone playing a zither. That's kind of got quite a sharp, high pitch sound, right?
Yeah, it's actually
Kind of
probably not the
plinky.
best for background fun, but yeah.
Well, they're playing it in a kind of sparse sort of Bronze Age fashion. Yeah, I know what I mean. It's fine.
But yeah, I suppose I'll go up to the bar and go. We have some horses and we need rooms for the night, if that's acceptable.
Of course. Have you got coin?
You got coin? What's the rate?
She gives you the rate for looking after horses. It's a perfectly reasonable asking price, and she rents you a large room upstairs as well, and asks if you want food and drink brought out.
Yeah, please. We'll you'll see us. We'll go and get a seat.
You folks going to Davokar?
No, we're just back, more or less. Psychologically just back, I suppose. No, we're here. We're on the lookout for somebody.
Hope you're not planning on causing trouble.
No, we just left a place where there was loads of trouble.
Who are you looking for?
Oh, just let's get some food first. We'll talk business later.
All right. She ushers you back to your table with kind of a round of drinks, and then later on a roast is brought out. Perhaps some venison or the like is brought out for everyone to start eating.
So, what's the plan?
I have some questions about Arkle. Firstly, do we have any idea what he looks like or where we might find him or what he's doing here? That's already several questions.
I also have a question about Arkle. Who's Arkle?
Right.
So, there was a fracas in the salons of Symbaroum where a lady with whom a young priestess who we are very interested in,
Anadea.
Anadea, it is actually in bold right in front of me, but I still didn't read it. Anadea got into a fight with Arkle. And all of this would be completely normal were it not for the fact that Anadea had connections to people and events that may have led to the sinkhole. And we need to follow up every lead. And the rest of the leads in the town went dry.
Do you recall what was said during that disagreement? Somebody had said that something got shouted out, something...
That was death to the first father, wasn't it?
First father Jessabegai, the head of the Sun Temple.
Yeah. Although I believe we were told that Arkle and Anadea were normally friendly.
Yeah, and we have also been told from a good source that that's not the kind of thing that either of them would have shouted.
Yeah.
And I believe it was passed on that Arkle has returned to Glimmervann, where he's from, because he received news of his father dying, and he wanted to return and take care of his family farm.
Yeah,
that was it. Yeah.
So that's it. Kind of leads me on to my next thing about we should probably do this with a degree of subtlety.
We just want to talk to him and find out what the disagreement was about, right? Like, we have no problem with him. I have news, and I think it's probably convenient that Antom's not here because I don't want to be the one responsible for shaking his faith further. I got talking to a Templar, in Thistlehold, because I've noticed that there seem to be very few Templars around. She said that there were very few Templars anywhere. That they had been recalled, that they had left. Perhaps there was talk of an order springing up inside the church, who call themselves the Knights of the Dying Sun. They say that Prios is dead.
Nothing like a bit of interleaving church drama to really spice up your afternoon, is there?
I don't listen. I bring this up partly because I needed to tell someone, partly because if we've got this argument happening where somebody is shouting death to the First Father, I want you to know that there is a possibility that we're going to be getting even further into church business, but to the point that we now have an insurgency. We have I mean, just astonishing blasphemy.
Wonder, could we get them to fight the sellswords of the Dying Sun and have both problems kind of cancel each other out? I mean, just thinking economically here.
It's very politically minded of you.
That's what church, isn't it? It's all politics.
What do the Black Cloaks say about the entire Templar Order turning heretical?
Well, I've only met one Black Cloak, and they didn't say anything.
You tried to get them to say something at the end, but unfortunately, you stoved their head in.
Yeah, it didn't quite work out.
I think the concept of heresy in the church right now is a unusually spry shifting sand of moving goalposts to mix like four metaphors at once.
I don't know if Prios is dead.
I mean, probably not. He is a god.
I am trying not to think about that. But I think if you have a significant number of the Templars that have taken issue with the church and taken issue with the church's stance here amongst the mortals, we could be talking about something very serious indeed in terms of the future of the church.
So there's three elements at the minute conspiring to destabilize the church.
What do you mean? Well, you've got Sarvola, who's just kind of preaching what the church
and
would call
Sarvola's
heresy.
Never caused anyone any trouble. He's been around since as long as there's been walls on Thistlehold.
You've got the Black Cloaks and the Sellswords of the Sun conspiring against Sarvola, which could be construed as protecting the interests of the church.
But you also have the internal friction of the current First Theurg and the slightly more senior resident of the temple being at odds with regards to how to deal with our heretical preacher.
Yeah. And you have the Knights of the Dying Sun who are capable of who knows
That's
what.
an army. That's basically an army. Look, could this... Do you know what? I really hate politics, but I can't help but think that there might be a certain singular force attempting to cause all this at the same time to weaken the church.
Maybe. I'm the wrong person to ask. I mean, I don't recall ever seeing the church be seemingly so on the brink of implosion, but then perhaps I spent my whole life with that happening all around me and me not being able to see it until it was revealed to me. I'm not a good person to ask about what's happening in the church.
It seems, I mean, it could be two things. It could be that there's some force driving all of this But equally, perhaps whatever it was that attacked Thistlehold was able to somehow realize or find out that there would be less Templars and less defenders available than normal, and
Yeah,
chose
but
that
that's
time
not-
for that reason.
That's not just Thistlehold, that's everywhere.
I know, but what I'm saying is that perhaps it was not a coincidence, but one caused the others rather than a single force driving both things. It seems hard to imagine. I don't know. I don't really understand church business.
Maybe it's people, maybe it's politics, maybe it's people tired of the status quo. Maybe Prios is dead, maybe Prios is not. Maybe Prios was never alive. Maybe Prios is alive and is not what he claims to be or the church claim him to be.
I think this is. I feel like. Would you say it's safe to say, Stephen, that Alindra is getting perhaps more vocal than she should at this point, as the conversation is not heating up, but certainly getting more animated?
I think she would be trying not to be loud.
Sure,
I don't think she wants to be heard by the next table over.
sure.
But also, yeah, like this is kind of close to the bone for her. So
Yeah, absolutely. And at this point, I think you become aware of a large, very kind of like, obviously a man who's seen a lot of labouring, pardon me, in his life, kind of standing near the table. He walked in mere moments ago, went over to the bar and has now come over to where you're all sat. And he kind of stands there with his arms kind of crossed until presumably people at the table start acknowledging him or looking at him in some way. And he says, well, this sounds like a conversation I don't particularly want to be a part of. Nevertheless, my name is Demion. You're here looking for someone. I help run things around here. Why don't you tell me who that someone is, and we'll see what we can do about it. And depending on who that is and why that is, maybe we can help you, or maybe you can move on tonight.
We're looking for a man named Arkle. We have no trouble with him. We just want information, and we have some news about one of his friends from Thistlehold.
You planning on using those blades to get that information?
No.
Can everyone give me just a flat persuasive roll, please? Assuming, like, if you don't say anything during this, then you don't. Then I guess you don't get to make the roll. But anyone who did, say anything,
I think
I'll
kind of leave. I think I'll just be kind of quiet at the minute.
Sure.
Aaron is not only not saying anything, but he's also looking slightly worriedly around the group and feeling like he may have jumped in the middle of something once again without really knowing what's going on.
I rolled a 6 and I needed a 5.
I needed a 7 and I rolled a 6, and I'm very glad that I did so.
Sure. Demion kind of nods and tussles his longish brown beard and says, all right, come with me. I'll take you to Arkle's farm. You can carry out your business with him tonight. And that means you can sleep here tonight and then presumably be off on your way in the morning.
Yeah, appreciate that.
All right. We want to be hospitable in Glimmervann, but we've had a rough year. He strides out of the inn and kind of stands outside waiting for you, kind of patiently with his arms folded. His manner hasn't been unfriendly, but it's certainly been authoritative. Let's put it that way.
Sure. There's a bunch of people that arrived from out of town without warning, looking for someone, and the situation needs to be managed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also one of them has started shouting heresies in the pub.
I mean, heatedly talking heresies. I think,
Getting a bit whispery wavy.
No problem. I take it we're all heading outside without any kind of like preamble. Demion kind of nods and starts walking through the village. It's kind of like sort of turning to twilight now, still very much easy to kind of see and navigate around. He leads you through the center of Glimmervann, through those crafting stalls and a small marketplace, which is now kind of packing away from the evening, and then out on a kind of rough kind of farm path down to the south. Where you stride along fairly silently for about 20 minutes or so before he turns and indicates basically a rather large farmhouse, which has its own like small fence around it, and then there look to be a number of fields further to the south, some of which have kind of like some goats and sheep in. Next to the sort of, it's not a gate leading to the farmhouse grounds, but it's kind of like it's a gate in terms that it has a frame around it, you know what I mean, but just no actual gates there. On two poles rammed into the ground next to this frame are the severed, still bloody heads of two jackars. Jackars, for anyone who hasn't encountered them yet, are a kind of jackalish, hyena-ish type creature that typically dwell within Davokar, but certainly are not unusual to see outside of Davokar. Some people even keep them as pets.
While we're walking there, can I ask Demion about
sure
the guys if they've had any trouble with yellow brownish cloth wrapped people or in the past?
He sort of wrinkles up his brow as you're walking along and says, "What's that? Some new bandits or the like?"
Just a group we encountered on the road. Nothing to do with our business here, but they were acting suspicious.
No, we've had no real trouble since the cult last year.
Okay, well, that's good to know. But
which, of course, may be news to Aaron and Alindra, but Steo and Askarai probably... You get the impression that Steo and Askarai know what they're talking about.
Steo's still staying kind of stoically quiet at the minute.
So, as I say, he leads you to the boundaries of Arkel's farm with these two jackar heads rammed onto poles next to the frame. And as he just kind of stands there and waves over near the farmhouse where a couple of individuals are standing, someone breaks off from the group and walks over to this gate. It's a young man, kind of fairly well built, with a kind of tousle of blonde hair, and a fairly simple but not inexpensive kind of like farming outfit. And he kind of wanders over slowly. He's wiping his hands off with a cloth, and he shares some small pleasantries with Demion, and then asks about you. And Demion says, "Well, they say they're here to see you." Arkel kind of looks over in a bit of confusion and tilts his head to the side.
We come with bad news, I'm afraid to say.
More? All right.
Your associate from the church, Alindra, was found dead.
I hope not, Alindra.
Oh, sorry. Anadea, it's right here. It's literally right here. Anadea.
He kind of obviously is taken aback by this for a moment, and then kind of shakes his head and says, "How?"
Some corruption attacked Thistlehold, took out a whole neighborhood.
I heard some fell into the ground.
She was at the epicenter.
If you fellows could give me a moment, we lost my father 3 weeks ago. The day before yesterday, a stable boy was taken by jackars. It has been a bad month.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, well, might I ask why you're coming to me with this? Not that I don't appreciate knowing.
We had heard that you were both initiates with the church, that you knew each other, and that you had both parted ways with the church. We also heard that there was an argument between you in the salons of Symbaroum. We're trying to investigate.
Are you representing the guards?
No.
No. Nor are we technically representing the church. We're, if anything, representing Thistlehold.
And do you consider yourselves, or did you consider yourselves friends of Anadea?
Associates, acquaintances, perhaps?
We didn't know her for very long.
We have
Is
some
it-
reason
is it-
to think that she knew something about what happened in Thistlehold.
Is it safe to say that her goals are your goals?
I
think that's pretty safe to say.
All right. Well, I'm not standing here at the gate and pouring my heart out about any of this. Come inside. We'll break bread. It'll be all right, Demian. Demian says, "You sure?" Yes. Demian gives a nod to Arkle and then kind of peers at each of you. Again, not in a friendly fashion, not in a warning way as such, but, you feel that you are seen here. And he kind of strides back off to town. Arkle turns and starts walking towards the farmhouse, kind of like he's pulled the rag out of his pocket again and is kind of cleaning his hands off. You don't know what he's cleaning off his hands, but it has definitely kind of like a pungent, gamey smell to it as you're walking towards the house. You see a couple of people kind of in the fields working, and someone bringing in kind of a stream of goats for the night into a large barn. And they kind of like wave to Arkle, and they seem to be kind of like wrapping up their work for the day and sort of heading off one by one. Arkle leads you to the farmhouse, opens the door for you to step inside, which I'm assuming we're doing.
Yep.
Inside is a rather large and cheery chamber with a sort of central table. There's a fire like set over to one side in a chimney, and a number of small children kind of running around, doing what small children do just before a meal, gearing themselves up by spending as much energy and attempting to make themselves as sick as possible when they eat. There is an older woman accompanied by one of the older boys over kind of by the fire, cooking various things and sort of carving up bread and such. She looks around confused, and Arkle holds his hand up and says, "Mother, these are just some good folks from Thistlehold, friends of a friend of mine. We just need to talk about it. Some more bad news we'll explain later." And he indicates for you to sit at the kind of large plain wooden table in the center of the room as darkness starts to encroach outside.
We'll sit.
Yep.
He'll sit and give the mother by the fire a respectful half bow.
So Arkle kind of, after going over and giving a brief hand to his mother and his brother at the cooking, comes over and sits down, and he's kind of got a cob of bread which he tears up into chunks and just kind of like slides bits along the table to you, to each of you. He sort of glances. I think it's safe to say he glances askew at Askarai if you're wearing your mask.
I am wearing my mask. If I see him, I think I would take it off in this situation.
Okay. He gives no visible sign of kind of alarm or distress or disapproval at seeing a changeling sat at his table, and nods, passes out the bread, and pinches the bridge of his nose somewhat wearily. All right. What do you want to know?
What was your relationship with Anadea?
We were friends, very, very close friends. My best friend in the world.
Seems she was in league with some people who would maintain a certain distance between Ambry and the forest.
That does not surprise me. She always had so many ideas. She often defended the heresy of Sarvola, questioned everything spoken by the priests. Not openly, but when we were alone, we would have, I suppose, arguments about it. I tend towards the traditional, although recent events have made me doubt that.
Just Thistlehold, or has there been more?
Thistlehold's enough, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
What was your argument about?
Did you say where did you say this argument was?
In the salons of Symbaroum,
Right.
somebody called
Yes.
Gelato.
Yeah, that drunk. Yes, we were arguing. We were arguing about Davakar. Anadea claimed that the priests were wrong, that nature can never be evil in itself. She said the barbarian witches may be right in claiming that the humans make nature evil and vindictive.
Those are some words. But
They are. And I even then, I do not think she need be wrong. It is just, I think things need to take their course. We are still newcomers to this land. I thought it alarmism and chose to take the counterpoint. Someone's drink got knocked over. We had to scramble out.
Someone shouted death to the first Theurg, which is something I haven't on good authority neither of you two would do. Do you remember who it was?
I certainly agree that would be nothing either of us. I did not say that myself, and I have never heard Anadea yell nor whisper that, and don't believe she would. I'm sorry, I do not remember anyone crying that out. Perhaps it's possible someone with some grudge in their cups, or maybe that drunkard made it up, but I do not know.
Potentially made it up by the drunkard, potentially foreshadowing all of the forces harrying the church at the moment.
So, how would you describe Anadea's approach to her faith? Then, would you say she was radical, that she was progressive, that she was heretical?
I think she'd certainly welcome most of those terms. Perhaps not heretical, but I do not think Anadea was cut out for an organization like the church, where one must submit to the will and teachings of those who came before. I think she fell far closer to Sarvola, to the Lightbringer. What's the Lightbringer?
I would like to think that if she had lived, that we may have become friends.
Anadea was easy to make friends with, less easy to stay friends with. And in the later days when I was in Thistlehold, she was gone a lot. I think she'd fallen in with others who felt the same way that she had, but she never let me in on those.
So you don't know who
those meetings.
You don't know who she met, where she went.
I don't know.
What do you suspect?
Must you make me speak the name?
We probably know the name already.
Could we all give me a vigilant roll at -5, please?
Oof. It's all on you, Askerite.
I failed.
You're on mute, John, if you were responding.
I failed.
Did everyone fail?
Yep.
Oh, that's fun.
-5. Tough.
That's fun stuff. Okay. Let's carry on with the conversation.
I don't want to. We're not here to make you speak anything. We're here to investigate what happened and what work Anadea was trying to do, and see if there is anything we can do to help that work be completed. If there are names that you don't want to speak around your own kitchen table, we're not going to make you.
We have reason to believe that she was aware of a powerful source of corruption that may not just threaten Thistlehold, but all of Ambria.
Well, I feel like you and I know that if she was interested in protecting Davokar and safeguarding things from corruption, but did not want to go to the church with these things, there's only really one group of people she could have turned to. He opens his mouth to speak, and there is a colossal crash at the farmhouse door, and the sudden sound of aggressive cries from outside. The mother and the rest of the family kind of jump and leap backwards and look around. Arkle springs to his feet and like fumbles at his hip to draw a knife and kind of turns to you and says, "Is this treachery? Are you here to harm us?"
Don't think so.
Nope.
I'll be kind of starting to barrel toward the door in my spear.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sword drawn, head towards the door.
Yeah.
As you kind of stand up and draw your weapons, there you see a couple of things. First, the door that's been kind of crashed against, you see smoke start to pour out through kind of the gaps in the wood, and you hear the sound of things kind of crashing into the walls and on the roof above, and very quickly the room is filled with the scent of smoke, and there is a flicker of flames licking around the door and kind of outside. Arkle's family is starting to panic, and Arkle is not doing much better himself.
Is there a back door we can get everyone out via?
This is the essentially the farmhouse is one very large room itself. There is no back door, but obviously there's this front door. And also, you know what? Can anyone who may be trying to think of some kind of immediate exit solution to this, can everyone give me a cunning roll at -4? Anyone who might think of that?
Failed.
Actually, a pass.
Okay. The roof looks like it's been it hasn't been thatched for a year or two, and it looks pretty soft, and like most of the reeds in it have rotted away. So if anyone climbing up to the beams of the roof to kind of punch a hole in it might be able to do that. On the flip side of that front door, clearly something has crashed against it, but the front door itself doesn't look hugely sturdy. So those are options. Arkle is kind of has obviously thought of that and is moving towards the door, ready to try and start bashing it open. Most of his brothers and sisters are kind of lurking behind him to attempt to kind of maybe try and help him with that. However, there is another issue in that Arkel's mother is desperately trying to drag a 7-year-old girl away from where she's kind of clutched at a large, it's almost like a sofa type furniture, much more basic than that, but she's essentially panicking, grasping at it and refusing to let go, while her mother is trying to drag her away from it with an even younger child kind of tucked over one shoulder. And they are there, and kind of sparks are starting to come down from the roof, sort of over deeper in the room where they are. So that is also a situation.
Are there any windows?
There are windows, but they are like sort of have flames like rolling up the outside of them.
I'll kind of shout to Askrai.
You could still
kind of
jump through or whatever.
I'll kind of shout to Askrai and kind of indicate the point in the roof that's probably the best exit, and go, "Get out there, see what we're up against. I'm going to see if I can get the kids out to you."
Okay, I will. I'm not certain I'm going to be able to do this, but I will attempt to climb up and out of the roof.
Sure. Why don't we? I know we're not in combat as such, but John, do you want to pop us up an initiative order, please? It's worth noting you can hear people moving around outside and shouting things to each other over like the escalating roar of the frames and like the cracking, the slight creaking and cracking sound of the stone and wood shifting with the increased heat. But yeah, let's bring up an initiative order, and then we'll just run people through in that order. How about that? Taking what actions they want.
Just us.
Yeah, just you four. Just put an NPCs at the end, and we'll do like Arkel and whatever.
Okay.
Were the flames at the window too kind of intense to see out of the window?
It's not that they're too intense to see. I mean, the answer is yes, but it's not strictly because of the intensity. It's because it's dark outside. It's very light in here, and there's a glaring flame in front of you, so it's very difficult to see. You can maybe see shapes moving around, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But it's Askarai first. So, do you want to climb up? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I will try to climb up and find some way out of the roof.
Cool. Do you have acrobatics?
No.
Sure. Then just give me a quick test, please. And this is an active action, so it's not your movement action; it's your thing.
I made it just about.
Yeah, it's taken you kind of this entire turn essentially, but you've climbed up into the beams and of the roof, and you're kind of looking around you, and there are indeed, it looks like points where the reeds and the rushes are layered over, that you can start to kind of like batter away at and try and, or even get your knife would be a good job for it, and try and carve your way through those things, but it took you your turn to get up there. So, or rather, it took, like, you still have a movement action, but I think you don't want to jump back down. So,
no.
Yeah. Elindra, what are you doing?
I don't know, panicking. Like I guess the choice is either try and get out of the roof or try and get out of the door. Does it seem like if we could get the door open, that there would be a way out through there?
You think so? As far as you can tell, yeah. I mean, obviously something hit the door, but unless they've somehow secured a thing larger than the farmhouse to put in front of the door, then, like, carving through the door would be a good step towards, or kicking it down or whatever. Yeah.
I think first and foremost, I've drawn my sword.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, I think I just want to kind of run full pelt and try to kind of shoulder barge the door.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Well, what would we want for that? How do we determine kind of unarmed damage is the question here. I think there must be some unarmed attack is a D4. It's a D4.
Oh, damage wise.
Yes. So why don't you Elindra. And like when I ask for attacks on the door, I know it's not fighting back, but I want those attack rolls to represent like actually hitting it in a useful place rather than just, wailing away at it. So why don't you give me give me a strong roll to see how well you impact into it. No modifiers.
Ooh, just squeaked that through. Needed 15, got 15.
Okay, and why don't you give me a D4 roll to see how much damage you do?
That's a 3.
Okay. You feel it shifting, and you are, I think it's safe to say, aware that this door is not impregnable, but it's quite, while it looks quite ramshackle, it's also, actually it doesn't look ramshackle, but it's just not a particularly, it's not like a massive thick door. It looks like a well-made farmhouse door. You also, as soon as you hit it, you feel a weight on the other side kind of move away and then slam back down into it. So clearly they've tried to block the door with something that you can shift, but that also will definitely make this harder than it would have been otherwise.
Yep.
So you feel like you've made, you're definitely not doing something pointless in doing this, but neither is it going to be an easy task, is the sense you get.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Aaron, what are you doing?
I'm going to try and help the mother with the small child by the sofa.
Sure. How are you doing this?
I think it is mostly going to be through softly spoken platitudes with also an amount of physical untangling.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, that sounds to me. Why don't you give me a persuasion roll there, please? And I'm going to say that I'm going to put a minus on it because I think this kid is, out of their goddamn mind with fear. So why do we put them? But you are an adult, and you're an adult noble with like a sword and stuff. So why do we put a -3 on it? Obviously, the mother is trying to help you, but the kid's just not listening. Kind of like, gripping onto this chair.
Right. So I'm aiming for an 8, and I roll an 11.
Yeah, like you're trying. How kids, when they don't want to let something go, or they're like, just thrashing around and making themselves, I mean, my point of context for that is a cat, but like it's the same principle fundamentally. Just thrashing around, she's screaming and wailing, and the mother is desperately trying to get her off. There's the reek of smoke all around now. And you can feel the temperature climbing around you, but no joy right now yet. Steo.
So you said there were some kids up front by the front of the door.
There's a couple of like older kids, maybe like in their early teens or so, that they've moved kind of to one side now because Elindra is taking up the room it would take for them to try and force the door, but it's almost certainly a better idea for Elindra to be doing it.
I'll kind of shout to those guys, "You two over here!" And then I am going to try and jump out the hole that Askarai's made, if at all possible.
He definitely hasn't made a hole.
Oh,
nice. He hasn't taken any action towards making the hole yet. He's just up in the beams.
There's not enough space for us to be of parallel.
There's enough space for you to have a go at that door as well. Like Arkle's battered into it a couple of times, but he's kind of battered in and then pulled back from the one. But you could also try and either with your spear or just with your shoulder try and.
I actually think with the reach of the spear, I'll have a go at trying to assist Askarai in making a hole in the roof, kind of.
You know what? I think that's reasonable with the spear. Yeah, I'm going to make it a bit more difficult for you, but you can definitely kind of poke up there. Why don't you give me an attack roll at let's say a -3?
Oh, God. Right. I have to do some numbers now. 15, 14, 13, 12. -1 because I'm old and I failed my first roll of the day. +1 because my spear's cool. 13. 6.
Nice. Give me a damage roll, please.
With the spear, is it?
Mm-hmm.
With the +1 because the spear's cool, is it?
Mm-hmm.
The spear that you won't give me any cool backstory for, is it?
Literally no one else has been there yet.
11.
Okay. Ascarai, as you are kind of looking over this patch of roof and kind of drawing your dagger ready to carve it open, there's a kind of whistling sound next to you as Steo's bronze spear pokes up and just bursts its way through the roof in front of you, and like a whole section of it just kind of scatters and blows out and starts drifting off with the ash and the smoke and the wind. There is quite easily a human-sized hole in that roof now. For anyone who can manage to clamber up to the beams to escape out from. The roof is not yet, or at least this part of the roof is not yet on fire.
Okay.
We've got the NPCs going now. Arkle is going to start lifting his brothers and sisters up to the beams alongside Ascarai. So we'll say that I think we've said that he's got 5 brothers and sisters, and 2 of them are with the mother, so that's 3 of them. And yeah, okay, let's say they each get a turn as well. So those 3 are kind of like clambering through the gap in the roof now. Does that sound about right? Ascarai, what are you going to do? We're back round to you again.
I mean, it seems like the kids are able to kind of get out. I think I want to go out of this hole and, like, I don't want them to go out and just be killed. Right? So I'm going to go out of the hole and try and, look around, see if I can see whoever is doing this and what the situation is, basically.
Sure, absolutely. So you can use your movement action. Kind of, they've scrabbled out already. You kind of heave yourself up and step out into the night air. Instantly, the coolness of the night kind of like washes over you. There's a fine drizzle in the air, and the entire area around the farmhouse is lit by this this fire that's rising within it now. You can see various individuals kind of moving around, lurking, and specifically lurking near those windows and near the door with weapons drawn. They are all wearing kind of like recognizable fighting clothes, like cheap leathers and maybe a scrap of chainmail or 2 kind of crow armor. And they're all wearing sort of not like a heraldic badge, but like a badge like a mercenary company or some kind of group of individuals would wear, like a symbol. And it's just like a little strip of black cloth that's been tied around like a little scrap of armor, and it's just pinned onto their kind of breasts in various places. And they're all wearing black sort of cloths over the lower half of their faces, whether that's maybe it's so they don't breathe in the smoke, maybe it's to help like conceal who they are, but they do not seem to have noticed you, or the kids kind of like scrambling, and the kids have seen them and are kind of like scrambling along the roof to kind of jump off the far side of the farmhouse. You are there, and you have your bow and you have your combat action. Do you want to start engaging them?
Yeah, I think I will first kind of direct. The kids seem to already be doing quite well, but I'll try and direct them to where I think might be the safest place for them to go or get off the roof or wherever seems less on fire and less mercenary heavy.
Sure.
But I'll do that very quietly, and then I will shoot the nearest one. I'll shoot at the nearest one to me that I can see.
Absolutely. Their defense is a +1, so you get your shot at a +1.
Okay. Do I get advantage? Partly for being higher up.
And I think you're ambushing them as well. But yeah, you do get advantage from being higher up, don't you? With
yeah,
ranged,
I think that's how we've worked from the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're meant to in general, and then it doesn't mention it for range, and it's like, but it's more important with range. So I don't know why it's. Yeah, absolutely. Take advantage for it.
Cool. So I will need. Mine is +2, so I need 18, I think. I rolled a 10, so I make it.
Absolutely. Give me that damage roll, please.
It's a D10, a D4 plus 1 as well. I get 7 damage.
What's your +1 from out of interest?
My bow is a fancier bow now.
Fancier bow. Well, that, my friend, matches their pain threshold. So would you like another free attack on them? I mean, I'm guessing, or do you want to knock them prone?
Not to do myself out of an
Yeah.
attack here, but is matching the pain threshold still enough? I thought we'd errated that away.
Yeah,
So
that
maybe
has to be over it now. Yes, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. But you still get a second attack, right?
I think I've moved.
It's only if you don't move. Okay, yeah. Sure. An arrow sprouts from the shoulder of one of the individuals nearest the door, holding kind of like a large sword and kind of like clearly anticipating slicing through whoever comes out of it. And he kind of howls and staggers back and clutches at his shoulder, kind of peering up. And now the others kind of are aware you are up there. And there's at least one of them is sort of like scrambling over her shoulder for a bow. So, yeah. But you've definitely drawn first blood. Elindra.
I guess I'm going at this door again. Either with the sword or is there anything sort of heavy inside the house that I could use as some kind of battering ram?
There is, but you could kind of use the table, but you suspect in the time it would take you to like ready that and get someone else to do it with you. You've got a very large sword, and swords cut through wood, or at least this level of wood, pretty well.
Do the thing then. Let's just use
Sure.
Old Faithful to.
Why don't you give me an attack roll, please? And an attack roll, I think it's safe to say, like +5.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, that's a success. That's a 10.
I don't know what happened to that, but I'm sure he'll be
He's probably
back
closed the tab.
shortly.
Wow.
The my fifth mouse button just takes me back in my browser. And I accidentally hit it. I just leave. An attack at +5, please, because you are attacking a stationary door, right?
Yeah, that was. I think it was clearly successful enough to boot you from the entire game for a second there. I succeeded on the attack. So am I rolling damage?
Yeah, damage.
But just sword damage, or okay, sword damage this time. That's a D12. Oh, 11.
Considerably better. And hey, it's over the door's pain threat. No, the door does not have a pain threshold. But basically, you kind of like. Do you think you give a battle cry or anything at this point? Kind of like overhead swing or something like that. Just trying to hack this thing open.
I think Elindra's probably quiet and focused and just putting all of the brutality into whatever the weakest part of the door would be.
Sure. And you kind of hack at it where you see kind of like basically where two of the beams in it have started to split apart from where you rammed your shoulder in, and your sword just kind of glides through the center of the door like butter. A great heft of that beam topples out onto the floor outside, and kind of there's a kind of rush of cool air and fresh air in for you to take a gulp of. And outside, you now can see these figures stood outside. You can see them less clearly through the smoke and the flames, but you can see individuals stood there with weapons ready. And as you see, as you like watch, one of them kind of goes and reels backwards with an arrow in them. Aaron.
As things are
the door is still not broken open completely. Sorry, I don't know if I made that clear, but
okay, so we can see through, but
you can see through, and you dealt it a colossal blow. So
cool.
I have decided that slight bruising may be better for this child than getting burnt.
Sure.
So I'm going to like wrap one arm around her middle, and the other one is like a bear hug to pin her arms, and just try and
wrestle her off. I think that's perfectly fine. Why don't you give me a strong roll at +5, please?
Yeah. What? I needed a 15 and I rolled a 16. This is like when you pick a cat up, and even though as a human you are much stronger than a cat, they're just like
yeah, absolutely. I've lost many fights to my cat. So you do not manage to You do not manage to rest this child. Nearly, but they're still grabbing on. The mother is starting to panic now, kind of pleading with the child and trying to pull her away. The toddler, also a young girl over her shoulder, is starting to kind of like wail and scream at the top of her voice and cough as the smoke starts to enter her lungs. Steo, what are you doing?
I don't suppose I can negotiate with the mother to take the toddler to safety and then go for the roof.
I mean, you can make the roll if you like. You could also help with the child.
I could help with the child, but the child might be a lost cause. We might yet save the toddler.
Christ.
I like to picture this again as a situation I've experienced with my cat. That I'm holding on to the child and just like one hand or nail dug into the sofa, and CEO is just like, nah, nothing you can do here.
Oh
gonna
my
have to
God.
burn to
Do you know what
death.
I've done? I've done enough evil deeds for the last couple of days. I'm going to try and assist with rescuing the kids via on deadly force. So I'll also
Sure. Yeah, that's I'm going to say it's a strong roll at +6 because I think like Aaron already being involved is also a factor in this. So
This is 18 or less. 5.
yeah, there we go. Like you say, the kid is like holding on with her fingertips. Steo steps in and you just kind of wrench those arms back, not to harm, but kind of like just very firmly removing the small child's grip. She lets go. Aaron, are you just kind of grabbing this kid and like moving? I mean, you don't get a turn now, but kind of moving away.
Yeah.
Or are you passing it to the mother because the mother is already has one smaller child?
I think passing her to the mother wouldn't really, because we have to
You know,
pass her up.
Arkle's there as well. Arkle's there as well. Do you want to pass this rogue child to Arkle?
Yes, I think I'm going to do that.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you do that because it's like NPC's turn now, right? So Arkle will reach out and take the child off you. He passes her up, and then he's kind of like looking up to see, like he passes the smaller still child like up to kind of one of the young teen kids who like basically all the kids are getting up and out and through the roof now. The mother looks to be in some doubt at being able to scramble up there, and Arkle and the mother are still kind of like stood in the farmhouse with you guys. So what we have is a situation where there's a band of people outside who are now aware that Askara is on the roof, maybe aware that the children are escaping through that gap, but all the children are off and out and are no longer in any danger of kind of like choking or burning. Arkle and his mother are still there and are kind of looking around for the next steps. The front door of this place is kind of quite nearly battered down now by Alindra, and Askara is kind of on the roof, bow out, kind of like faced with all these people. And I think that's where we'll end the session, because that feels like a nice little cliffhanger moment. So there we go. If you've got any comments or questions, folks, out there in chat, please flag them up and John will pin them for us to discuss. In the meantime, lovely, lovely promo. So there's a bunch of links down below. YouTube and Twitch. You're watching on one, please check us out on the other. There's links to our social media where you can follow us, to our Discord where you can join and talk to us, and to our Patreon where you can receive lovely treats in return for supporting us, which is terribly nice. We generally run 3 ongoing campaigns a week. At the moment, we're in flux a little bit, but generally speaking, what the future looks like is that Johnny will be running Shadows of Esteren on Mondays. Blades in the Dark, which is our Tuesday series, will be winding down next week, and Wednesdays is Symbaroum, and starting soon on Thursdays is a World of Darkness anthology series. If you're interested at all in the new series starting up, please join us this Sunday night on the 17th, Sunday the 17th of October. We're about 8 o'clock BST, our usual streaming time. We will be streaming a kind of chill hangout thing, launch party, whatever, where we'll talk about Shadows of Esteren. We'll talk about World of Darkness and any other things coming up on the channel that we can think of. But join us for that. It'll be a cool, chill hangout time. God, I sound old. We also run one-shots on the first Saturday of every month, the most recent of which was Wander Home, which is episodically going live as in VOD form on our YouTube this week. And our next one will be on Saturday, the 6th of November. That will be Dune, Adventures in the Imperium, and it will be run by this hot bastard right here. This
Hello.
guy.
Hope you like
Hi.
sand.
Sand and spice and all things nice / genocidal. Spoilers. So yeah, there we go. That's all the promo. John.
Wasn't technically genocide.
Samuel, brilliant game once more, guys. Thanks for all your high quality content. You're welcome. I particularly love the valiant noble knight Arendar being bullied by a child. And besides, does Steo play the accordion as well as Porkins the possum? This is a Wonder Home reference. You should all watch our Wonder Home thing. Does Steo play the accordion, Chris?
I don't think Steo plays any musical instruments. That sounds like something a happy, well-adjusted person would do.
Steo plays the spear song.
Yeah.
The music of blood and screams and glory. That's what Steo plays.
I am very happy you pointed out that it was not that bard in the thing, because if you watch, if you go back to our first couple of when we did Jack Hard's Heart the first time, there is probably the most hated character of Symbaroum so far.
No,
sorry, Chris is mispronouncing loved.
I think the true description is controversial, polarizing character.
Blackhawk is a wonderful character. I won't hear a word against him.
he's the Marmite of bards.
Samuel, we all wanted Blackhawk. Yeah, right? Yeah. I don't know why I'm saying that like I was forced not to put Blackhawk in that scene. I felt it would be pushing it in the old reminiscence nostalgia bit to like have him be there exactly at the time. Blackhawk will return. Blackhawk will return, I'll tell you that.
Chat is behind Blackhawk.
Malice, Paul Blackhawk getting no respect. He's great. He's great.
It's awful.
But
don't take my word for it. Why not go and watch the VODs and make your own mind up about this reprehensible noise merchant?
You go watch our Copper Crown trilogy, which is like a feisty 23 episodes or something. Then Black Hawk features in that a good couple of times. So there we go. What else we got, John?
Fantastic line out of context.
Electro Druid. I want to wrestle the child. I think that's perfectly fine. Operation U-Tree onto this stream like a hawk.
I guess you meant that it was fine in the context of like this is a logistically valid thing to do.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. But yeah, don't wrestle. Don't wrestle. Well, you can like, if you're a parent, you can, just don't slap a chokehold or a suplex. Another submission. Yeah, don't suplex your child.
Don't suplex your child.
Yeah.
Don't suplex your child.
Yeah, that's...
Unless you're a professional wrestler,
role play, stay for the life advice,
Even professional wrestlers tend to have their children perform the wrestling moves on them. There is an adorable one of Randy Orton being repeatedly RKO'd by his children. But, yeah.
There's also a short interview of Matt Hardy training his two, I think they're like a 4 and a 5-year-old, or like a 5 and a 3-year-old, on how to put wrestling moves on each other, and it's adorable in that way that very uncoordinated small children can only be.
Wonderful stuff. What we got next, John? Azimuth, hi Steve. I'm sure if the cooking pot was evil, you'd have heard of some side effects by now.
Well, I think
unless it's really subtle evil,
I think the primary side effect is yummy food.
It depends what you're cooking.
Which is a danger all of its own.
Yeah. Too real.
Absolutely.
Like suspiciously lovely food.
Yeah, sure.
Never trust anything that's nice. What else?
It's the role player's curse. It's like you notice an unusual stoat. It's like, I need to investigate this stoat.
I need to eat this stoat. Malice, surprise cameo. Who'd have guessed it? Who'd have guessed that Aaron would turn up again after his surprise also cameo last week? Yeah, we weren't sure what we were going to do with Aaron, and I think we're still not sure broadly what we're going to do in the long term. But it seemed pretty appropriate to bring him in this week, given that Mike is off for like this week and next week at least. We thought, hey, it's a nice chance to put Aaron in for a bit. So,
well, if we need something to do with him, there's a suspiciously useful Symbaroum cooking pot a couple of miles down the road.
Well,
Are you
Is that
going to
Aaron's
cook
fate?
my character?
Yeah, sure, why not? Steel's done worse.
I
For
see.
science.
Steo's done worse than cook a friend.
Cannibalism. That's
He's the worst thing than cook a friend. Cook and eat a friend.
Cook and eat a friend. Yes.
Or is it worse just to cook and then not eat them?
I think
Then
that's
they go
make
away.
waste.
That's
Waste.
wasteful.
That is
Way
worse.
worse.
You'll be
Use
like
every
there's
part of the Arendar.
starving children in Alberator that would love to have an Arendar on their plate.
Absolutely. Oh God. Have we got anything more, John?
No, thank
gonna
the
end
God.
up
I
cannibalism.
think that's the end of it.
That's the end of it. Thanks obviously to John for doubling up this week, being stream manager and player. Thanks to my wonderful players. Thanks to everyone out there watching. And join us next week for more Symbaroum. And please, if you are interested, turn up on Sunday evening for that launch party, casual hangout, talky thing about the series we've got coming up on the channel. It's on our schedule. So yes, goodbye. Take care, everyone.